about to whip somebody's ass.
He's gonna take you back to the past to play the shitty games that suck ass.
Hey there guys, this is Tony here, back at it again with yet another figure review, and this time we're going to be taking a look at the S.H.Figuarts Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Gogeta. This figure came out in April of last year at a retail price of $55 alongside Broly, who was $90, which both those prices are ridiculous for their own reasons, but we'll get into that when we get into that. Let's get started off with the box. Alright, we've seen this good probably a couple hundred times by now. Box is a clear window there. S.H.Figuarts Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Gogeta right there on the side. Tamashii Nations quality sticker, as well as a whole bunch of stuff there designed by Tamashii Nations in Japan, Bandai Spirits made in China, the Silver Toy Animation sticker, as well as the Bandai Tamashii Nations Dragon Ball Super Broly and Snake Stem logos. And here we have a picture of Gogeta on the front. On the top here we have a picture of Gogeta's hands. We also have a picture of him screaming up at the top, which if you put those two together, it is him firing a Kamehameha. The side here we have a picture of Gogeta screaming again, this time charging the Kamehameha, and then we have a picture of his belt, a picture of his arm, and it's all on a yellow background. Back here we have picture of Gogeta, full array of interchangeable hand and face parts allow for expressive portrayal of Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Gogeta. Whole bunch of other pictures of him fighting Broly, as well as some Japanese stuff that I again totally legitimately can read. You don't need to ask questions there, just consume that product.
Buy another one, Morty!
Then on the bottom here we have a picture of Gogeta, yet again him smirking, and S.H.Figuarts Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Gogeta. On this side, nothing but Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Gogeta and S.H.Figuarts Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Gogeta. It's about time we crack Gogeta out of the box. So here Gogeta is out of the box. For right now, we're going to be taking a look at some comparisons, and here Gogeta is next to Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Goku and Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Vegeta from the Broly movie. The hair on these three matches pretty closely. Gogeta is just a tad shinier than both of them, and Vegeta is just a tad shinier than Goku. That's probably due to the way Goku's hair was done. It's probably generally how their hair was done, but if you put these three on a shelf together, their hair will match, which is good. That's definitely a plus these guys have over the Resurrection F figures. But anyways, here Gogeta is next to the no longer San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Kid Goku from 2019, and the Hong Kong exclusive Bulma with purple hair. And then here Gogeta is next to Goku Black and San Diego Comic-Con 2013 exclusive Piccolo. Here Gogeta is next to Full Power Super Saiyan Broly and the original movie version of Broly. You can see these two absolutely tower over Gogeta. Anyways, that about does it for comparisons. Let's move on to the paint and sculpt of Gogeta. So as far as the paint and sculpt is concerned, I'd have to say Gogeta looks very nice. There's some shading all throughout the white of his pants. Pants themselves are a brand new sculpt altogether. Comparing them to Goku real quick, here is Goku next to Gogeta. You can see that just from this shot alone that these two use entirely different parts to each other. The detail all throughout the sculpt is very nice. Even if there is no shading, he definitely has a lot of detail and it looks very good. And then the face, if you look at it dead on, it looks pretty good. The eyes are nice and angular. They curve upwards and they actually do point slightly outwards, but the nose is ridiculously long. If you look at it from any other angle in the front, it's going to look off because of how long his nose is. On the contrary though, the hair is sculpted very nicely. There's a lot of detail all throughout and it does look nice. It is a nice metallic flaking effect going on and it looks pretty cool. And they did choose a very, very good shade of blue. I would prefer if there was some slight hints of shading throughout, but it's not too awful. Overall, I'd have to say the sculpt work is very nice. The belt is sculpted very nice. It's actually made out of a rubbery plastic, so you don't have to worry about anything getting in the way. And this actually does benefit his articulation a little bit, as we'll see later. Once again, on the contrary, however, the jacket is not painted very nice. You can see very clearly that there is some yellow bleeding into the gray, and the yellow is a bit fuzzy as well. Most normal people aren't going to notice that, but if you're about as crazy as I am, you probably are going to notice that. But anyways, that about does it for the paint and sculpt. Let's move on to Gogeta's accessories. So here are Gogeta's accessories. And I have to say, for his retail price of $50, I'm going to be completely honest with you, this is absolutely pathetic. He comes with some cool stuff, I'm not gonna lie. I think the base head is pretty neat, but there was just way too much room for more accessories, especially considering how demanded of a figure Gogeta is, particularly in Super Saiyan. I think they could have made more stuff to come with him, but what we do get is pretty okay. Once again, to save time, I'm just gonna say the hands look good. They could use some shading like the rest of the skin on the figure, but overall they aren't bad. Let's move on to the rest of his accessories, starting off with the base form head. This is probably one of my favorite accessories that the figure comes with. It looks very nice. The hair sculpt isn't the same as the blue head, unfortunately, so don't expect to be able to just paint the blue faces and put them on this head. What's weird is when you take the face off of this head, you can see they literally just painted black over the blue. Don't know why they did this, but they did. I'm assuming it was probably to cut costs, but yeah, the hair sculpt is pretty nice. The face looks very good. It's very reminiscent of classic Dragon Ball Z with the angular eyes that sort of point upwards as they go on, and the little curves for his lower eyelids. They're a bit more subtle than the blue head, but they are still present and they look very nice. Moving on to the faces that Super Saiyan Blue comes with. Here we have the smirking face. I have to say this is done pretty well. I kind of wish the eyebrows were a bit brighter because they don't actually match the blue, but they do look pretty good still. Again, the nose is way too long, but again, it isn't bad. This is probably my favorite face that Gogeta comes with, at least for casual posing anyways. For extra posing, there is the next face, and that next face is the screaming face. I have to say, this looks very, very nice. This is by far one of my favorite screaming faces in a while. The eyebrows are nice and raised, and the pupils are small to make him look even more angry, and the hair is very cleanly painted. It's a little fuzzy where the blue meets his skin tone, but it looks very, very good. This is most definitely my favorite screaming face that Tamashii Nations has added in a while. That about does it for accessories. Let's move into the articulation. Alright, so in terms of articulation, the figure itself, there's definitely some issues. Starting off with the head, like how we always do around here. You do get a good range out of it, but same issue as Gotenks. Face falls off. I don't know in Gotenks, but from what I've seen, the face falls off ridiculously easily. That's because they engineered the peg wrong. The peg is not recessed far enough back inside of the head, meaning that if you move it forward even the slightest bit, that face is going to come right off. Doesn't matter which head he has on, the face is just going to come right off. And the head is a little bit loose in some instances on mine. Yeah, you can kind of see it's wobbling a bit, but it's not too bad. The neck does get decent enough movement, so if you don't want to move the head itself, you can just move the neck. And then the waist is actually pretty well engineered. You can get really good ab crunch out of the upper torso at the expense of a bit of a gap in the back there. Then we run into another engineering problem. Gogeta's insides are way too thick, meaning that they bump into the torso, and you have to you have to kind of shimmy it out of the way. If you don't, you can kind of see the result. That plastic just chips right off. Don't know why they engineered it like that, but they did. And I would show you the waist joint. But unfortunately mine is completely frozen. That is the best movement I can get out of that thing. I'm not going to push it at all because we're going to move right into the legs before we get into the arms. The thigh does kick up pretty well, but if we pop that off and we look at what's inside, that's a straight peg that connects into the torso. So I am not going to rotate that at all because I don't want to break that off. Do get the usual thigh swivel, and it does go all the way around on this figure. And like I said, the actual hip itself does get some good range, though do be prepared for it to fall off. Going back, it also gets some pretty okay range. Again, the rubbery belt helps with that. And the knee, it bends pretty far inward. And the ankle, you can get it to go down pretty far. You're not going to get much upwards movement, and you're definitely not going to get much of any side movement out of it. The toe is loose, it's not really useful, so that's that. And moving on to the arms, because we didn't do that earlier. Whatever these are, they move around on a single ball peg that connects into the shoulder itself, and they do come off pretty easily. The shoulder is pretty tight on mine, but it does get full 360, and look at that. Butterfly joint was actually properly engineered this time, and you get good movement as a result. What do you know, Tamashi? You actually engineered a competent butterfly joint for change. So moving on with the arms, the shoulder moves up about that far without pushing it down. I'm not going to push it down because this is a stiff as hell joint. We get a bicep swivel, which is par for the course with these things. Get a double joint at the elbow, which doesn't get much range. You probably could force it to get a little bit more. Yeah, you can force it to get a little more than 90. And you get a ball hinge, pivots, and swivels. I'm going to warn you ahead of time with this design. Be particularly careful, because I've seen a handful of UI Gokus where people have broken the wrist joint off because of how recessed it is. So be very careful when moving the wrist joints on your S.H.Figuarts figures. But anyways, the articulation on Gogeta it's okay on my copy. It's probably better on other copies, but for what I could get out of the figure, it's not bad, but it could be a lot better. I think they could have easily sanded down the inside of the torso, and they could have easily re-engineered the head to give it a bit better movement, as well as not cause the face to fall off. But anyways, that about does it for articulation. Let's move on to my final thoughts on Gogeta. So as for my final thoughts on Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Gogeta, or Super Saiyan Blue Gogeta, as I very inconsistently referred to him as all throughout this review, would I recommend you buy this figure? If you can find him at retail price, yes. The figure itself is very nice. I think the sculpt work is very good. The paint work could have used a little bit more shading, but overall I think it was pretty good. The accessories, what he does come with, are pretty cool, though do note you do not get a lot of accessories with this figure. And the articulation, it is a bit iffy in spots. It can be pretty stiff. I've seen a lot of copies that outright broke on the first day. Overall, I have to say Gogeta is a good figure objectively speaking, but for his current aftermarket prices, I would recommend you wait until you find one for a cheap price, because you probably will find him at a cheap price one day. There's also the high probability that Tamashii Nations will reissue this figure at some point, considering that they never once said he was a web exclusive, and as we all know, non-web exclusives are prone to being reissued at some point down the line. That said, Super Saiyan 3 Goku seems to be an exception to that rule, and many others. Anyways, that about does it from me. This has been Dipper Games 420, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.